Yo, what's up YouTube? Firefist Chris here, and today guys I'm bringing you an updated deck profile on my red purple law deck for OP-05, as this is the deck that I've been leaning towards playing a lot for this format. It's a fun deck. Law is my favorite character, and even before we just get started into the deck profile, I want to say thank you guys. We're almost at 500 subscribers. I came to realization today, today is actually Christmas, so happy holidays for all those who celebrate. I actually opened this channel the same day last year, so I thought it'd be fitting to upload a new deck profile for Law the same time. So again, guys, thank you for all the liking, comment, and supporting you guys have been doing on the channel for the past year, and hopefully next year we'll be up to 1,000. So I'm gonna go straight into the deck profile. If you guys don't know already, this is Law red purple for OP-05. We'll just go straight into the deck profile, and I'll explain choices, the reason why I run certain cards, and the ratios as well. So starting it off with 4 Gordons. Gordons is a must play for the deck. Honestly, I know it is a pricier card. It's kind of hard to replicate it with a different card. So as of right now, I am just playing the 4 Gordons, just minus 3,000. And this is very important into the matchup, specifically against Purple Luffy. It's good against Ohm Gadatsu for Nell, and as well as Lucci for Sakazuki. So the 3 main decks this card hits, and honestly, it's just a really good card. You want to kind of see this every match you're playing. Next, of course, we're going to run the 4 Otama. It's a dual purpose, 2K counter, as well as it being a power reducer to be able to get your abilities off as well. So fairly standard. Next cards, I don't think they're exactly standard, but I think they should be for the red purple law, and that is I am running 4 Sanjis, the 2K counter. So this card is really good into a lot of the starve methods that these decks are doing now, like even Sakazuki and Nell. A lot of times they'll try to starve you out. This against a Nell, you kind of want to just mulligan for the Sanji, just because it kind of reduces the impact that Gadatsu will have on your board, especially if you're going second. A lot of times they'll try to take first to be able to get Gadatsu. They won't attack your life and kind of get rid of your bodies if you don't swing. So the Sanji on turn 2 kind of forces them, then they can only pop a 3 or less. So then on that next turn, if you play 2 4-drop bodies, there's not really much they can do. Gadatsu is not that impactful because it can only get rid of the Sanji. So that's my thought process behind it, as well as it being a 2K counter, which this deck does desperately need. Now, for updates for OP-05, we have the new Searcher Law. So this card just says that once you have less Don than your opponent when attacking, you don't need to, it's like a film Nami, but you don't need to rest the Don. You just search the top 5 for any Heart Pirate card and add it to your hand. So this card is really important into the deck. You do want to see this into certain matchups, because it kind of just sets itself up and be able to replenish itself. And if this sticks on board, you're more than likely going to win the game, just because it gives you too much, it gives you too much gas for your hand, of which this deck does lack late game. So if this sticks on board, it is going to be a problem for your opponent. But I'm only running 3 of it. It's just a non-counter card. You don't have to see it for most matches, but it is a really good card to have in your deck. Same mindset behind 3 Zorojuros. I was running 4. A lot of times, honestly, I only really see this card being good on if you're going first and you're playing this card, and then now they attack your life, and then you just get a Rampadon. Late game, a lot of times you just send this for a counter, so that's why I'm only running 3 of it, and I had to cut it for other space, for other cards in the deck. But Zorojuro, really good card. If you're at 3 or less life, when attacking, you could just ramp an active Don, which is really good. This in combination with the 5-drop Kid is really good in this deck, so that's why you got to run it. Then I would say for the MVP for the deck, honestly, it just kind of helps with a lot of your early game aggression, as well as for closing out games, is 4 Rush Zoros. Really good card. Just play it and attack for 5. Not much to say about the Zoros. You kind of have to run 4, especially in this deck. There's no way to search it, but that's why you kind of have to maximize potential of seeing it. Next, I am running 4 of the promo laws still. So a lot of decks are cutting out the promo laws, and I would say that running that the ace package is just honestly a lot of those matches. Ace is kind of just dead in your hand. It's an idealistic card, whereas like if you can play it, get rid of a body, and then attacking to something by minusing it by 3, then it's really good in those scenarios. But just in general, this deck really wants to play fast. So this law is just really good into yellow, just because it gets rid of all their 5-cost bodies while establishing a 5 power attack on your turn as well. So you kind of have to run this card, and then the searcher law can search law. So it's not that it can't grab itself. So this card can be added just for a 1k counter as well. Very important card for this deck. I would suggest if you're planning to play red purple law to really maximize that at 4. Then for the heart and soul of the deck, we have our rampers. So Sachi and Penguin, probably honestly the most important card you want to see. It's a 2k counter that gives you back the 2 Dawn that you need. This in combination with the 5-drop Kid honestly just makes it so you're not really getting rid of any Dawns, which is really impactful in this deck, just because there is 6-cost leaders that you kind of need that extra Dawn to be able to swing. So being able to do that play where you're getting rid of a body and then still keeping your Dawn is really good. Same thing with the Beppo. So I am running 4 Beppos standard when attacking and on play. When you have less Dawn, you could ramp a rested Dawn. Obviously it's not as good as Sachi and Penguin, but I would say that late game, if this can stick on board, this honestly helps a lot if you have a Kid on the board as well. Then for the blockers, I was going back and forth between running 3 and 4. I just felt like having blockers is just really helpful in this deck. You don't have a lot of defense, and this is a searchable blocker. And then there's also the threat of, now your opponent knows you're running this card. So a lot of times they will just counter out. Even if you don't have it in hand, they'll counter out with fear of not losing the 2 cards that they might need. So you kind of just want to maximize having this in your hand or being able to see this card. Card then that's next that I actually ended up cutting was I run 2 queens. So the reason why I'm running 2 queens, it's kind of dead in a lot of games. There's not a lot of games I would say that you need to see multiples of this card. It is good for getting rid of some events in your hand. If you have like a hand that's just kind of clogged up with just non-counter, it is good in that sense. But a lot of times you don't really want to play this card out. If it's a slower match, then I can see that, just kind of getting your pieces together. But that's why I'm running it at 2. Then for honestly, I think the best card in the deck, which makes this deck just a lot better, I am running 4 of the new 5-drop Kids. I did end up actually pulling the manga out of a double pack for this set. And this is actually my play set for the set. I wasn't able to get another super. However, this deck just in general revolves around this card. If you can get this card out on your turn 3, so your 5 Dawn turn, and keep it on board, this essentially makes your leader ability only -2 because you're getting an active Dawn back on top of that. And if you can establish 2 of these on board, usually it's just GG from there, because now you're getting so much value from your Dawn. Next up, I have 1 Radical Beam. I ended up actually cutting a Radical Beam. I was running 2 previously. Honestly, the deck space is kind of tight. This card is just really helpful with combination of the Kid, because since it gives you an active Dawn back, you can kind of just leave that Dawn up for the Radical Beam. And a lot of times in this deck, since it's a 4-life leader, you kind of need that extra defense. That's why I kind of kept going back and forth between running 1 or 2. But just currently right now, I am running 1 just because of the deck space. Really helpful card for just saving games. Then I have 2 Fire Fist. Fire Fist is a great card into Sakazuki, because if once you have 2 life, you can just pop a Rebecca for free, minus a Lucci or a Hina, and then bottom deck it, which is just a really power play in this deck, because you're getting rid of a blocker, and essentially is popping 2 cards, and you're still getting a lot of pressure on board. So I'm running 2 of these. Was going back and forth between running more copies of this, but I just found Gamma Knife being a lot better and searchable. Which that's the next card. The last card is 3 Gamma Knives. So Gamma Knives just Dawn -1. It's 2 Dawn to activate, and then you minus 5,000. This is really important because it gets rid of Katakuris, gets rid of Kids with just a 1 card. Anything 8k makes it 3k. So it's a really important card, and it's also searchable by the law. So all in all, guys, this was the deck profile for my updated list for law. I wouldn't say necessarily it's obviously the strongest, strongest deck in the format. But what I will say is that a lot of times, honestly, you can honestly beat every deck. It's almost like 50-50, depending. You kind of have to high roll and just have to see the right amount of cost reduce, well, minus reducer for power, as well as rampers. And as long as you have a decent amount of both, then you can win, honestly, most games. But that was it, guys. Like I said, thank you guys for all the support for this past year. And this is Fire Fist Chris signing out. Peace.